Hello all, welcome back to the next one. So till now we were discussing about running the test cases with multiple sets of data, and we had the data listed here in the @data decorator. I wanted to make it more flexible. I don't want to put all the data here in the @data pack. There should be a way that we can put the data outside in some external source, and then we can just read the data from there. That way, when we need to add some more data or delete the data, we don't need to touch the code file. We can just modify the external data source, right? And that's going to be really helpful for us. So what we're going to do in this one is we're going to read the data from a CSV file. A CSV file is known as comma separated file. We create any text file with the extension .csv and we separate the data with commas. That's known as a CSV file. So what I did is I copied the last class code completely and put it under a register courses underscore CSV data file. So this is again in the same test courses folder. This one, register courses CSV data. It's the same file as this one. I just changed the name. That's it. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to first create the CSV file, right? I'm going to go to no file, new, and I'm going to create a file. So let me just do it. I want to create under the project, not under this test folder. So maybe I can just right click here, new, and file is something that I want to create. I'm going to say test data.csv and let's click OK. So yes, it is a text file. So yes, let's click OK. So now we have the test data.csv file created. The first thing that's mentioned here, some headers. So we have a proper format. So the first column we want to list is the course name, right? The first is course name, then the card number, then card expiration date, and the card CVV number. So let's put course name, comma, because it's a comma separated file, then cc num, then cc exp, then cc cvv. So these are the headers. We will not be reading these headers. These are just for us, so when we take a look at the file, we know which column refers to what value. Now let's put the real values. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna copy the values from here because I just want to save some time typing stuff. And then the card number is 10, the other number is 12, 20, then again 10. These numbers are invalid, so we can put anything. The next thing is learn Python 3 from scratch. This is the next data set that we have. So again, comma, 20, 12, 20, and maybe 20. So this is just some data that we provided. Now we can see the course number, course name, credit card number, credit card expiration date, and credit card CVV. These are the things that we listed out here. This is the creation of the CSV data. Before using this guy, we actually need to create some utility in our framework that reads the CSV data, right? How would this data decorator know that what the data is? It needs to know somehow the data, and for that thing we need to write a small utility which can read the CSV file for us and return a list or a tuple to us, so that when we provide that list to this @data, it can understand that list and it can work for us. So since it is a utility, I'm going to create it under utilities folder, and I actually created a module called readdata.py. It's empty right now because I'm going to code it in front of you. So what it's saying is it has a method. The method I named is get CSV data. It accepts a file name. Definitely we want to put the file name so it can read that file. And it has some comments that I want to explain right now. The first thing we need in this module is we need to import the CSV module. This module is available in Python by default, so we can just say import CSV. We don't need to install anything. Alrighty, so what do we want to do? The first thing is we want to understand what we are doing. We want to return a list to this @data decorator, right? To return a list, we want all this data to be read and put it under a list. So let's create an empty list first. I'm going to say rows equals to empty list. This is my first step. Second step is open the CSV file. So I'm gonna say data file, I'm just providing it a name, equals to open, and file name is something that we want to provide because it's going to open the same file whatever we provide. And next thing is we want to provide the permissions. So I want to open it in read mode, so R for that. Then we want to create a kind of a reader object, which is the iterator, which is going to iterate over these data and read the data. So let's create the iterator, and I'm just going to name it reader. We can name it anything, and then CSV dot reader. So basically CSV has a reader method which iterates over the complete data and read the data. That's why I kind of decided to name it reader as well. And then under that we need to provide the file. So data file is something that we created. Actually it should be data, so I'm going to name it data. Data file is something that we're going to provide to the reader. This reader is going to read the lines one by one, right? Now the first thing in this reading process we want to do is we want to skip the headers because we don't want to read them, right? So to skip the headers, what we will do is we will say next, and it takes iterator, and default is optional. So iterator is our reader. What it's gonna do is it's gonna skip the header portion. Once the header is skipped, then we can try to run our for loop and then read the data. So till now we were setting up the stuff, we haven't read any data. Now we will say add rows from reader to the list. Now we will do a for loop which will read all the rows and it will add them to the list that we created, and list is rows, right? So let's do something for row in reader. So I'm doing a for loop on the reader. Reader should have all the data, and rows dot append and a row. So for every row I'm going in the reader and I'm appending that row to my rows list. Once that is done, I can just simply return my rows. So I return the list that I created. This is pretty much it. That's how we create the module to read the CSV data. And I want to give you guys some time to absorb this code. In the next one, I will actually show you how do we use this get CSV data module to read the data and run our test cases. So please download the code, practice it, understand it. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next lectures. Thanks for running this one.